Major global players are meeting in Germany for the annual Munich Security Conference, but representatives from Russia will not be among them.
Kosovo celebrates 15 years of independence from Serbia, but relations with Belgrade remain tense.
As the death toll from the Turkey-Syria earthquakes nears 44,000, 2 women were rescued in the city of Kahramanmaraş after being trapped for over 200 hours.
Over 13 years in prison for spying for Moscow, David Smith is sentenced for passing Russia information from the British Embassy in Berlin.
There's mounting speculation that London and Brussels have reached a new agreement on a revised Northern Ireland protocol on trade with the EU.
Representatives from 150 countries are meeting in Germany for the annual Munich Security Conference. At the top of their agenda, the war in Ukraine and tensions between Beijing and Washington. Upon his arrival at the 3-day event, Germany's defense minister had a revealing conversation with the press.
Why is it so difficult to get partners to send more weapons to Ukraine?
Maybe you should ask that the partners, not me.
Will you try and get them to agree?
We'll try, of course we do, every day.
Concerning the Leopards, do you have like approximate time when they will be flying to Ukraine?
The German Leopards will be in Ukraine at latest in the last week of March.
For the second year in a row, Russian representatives will not make an appearance at the annual conference, choosing not to come last year and not receiving an invitation this time around. Traditionally, the conference was a way for major global players to meet in an informal context to find diplomatic solutions to global problems.
The battle for Bakhmut remains fierce. The Ukrainian army is defending its position, but the Russians are feeling optimistic and claim they will take the town in 2 months. A senior US official has assured that neither country will reach its military objectives. For him, the war will have to end in negotiations. In an interview with the BBC, Ukraine's President Zelensky said he will not give up any Ukrainian land in exchange for peace. Nevertheless, the two countries have agreed on a prisoner exchange that has brought about 100 Ukrainian and 101 Russian troops home. Kyiv says Moscow is using decoy missiles and balloons to try and exhaust Ukrainian anti-aircraft defenses. On Thursday, night missiles hit the Kirovograd region in the middle of Ukraine and even Lviv on the western side of the country.
Kosovo is celebrating 15 years of independence from Serbia, although not everyone's joining in. The official status of the small Balkan nation continues to divide the international community, with Russia and China still backing Belgrade's stance that the country remains a province of Serbia. Citizens living there also have their differences. For Kosovo Prime Minister Albin Kurti, Kosovo is a democratic and sovereign nation, which he claims is the most developed economy in the region. But official figures tell a different story, showing unemployment running at almost 40% and increasing numbers of protesters on the streets.
Sad vidimo da smo krivi sami I zato ima dosta očaranja, razočarenja.
Both in the Serbian and Albanian communities, a sense of fear and frustration prevails, primarily for security reasons.
Ta tenzija se vidi, ona se reflektuje kroz veoma polarizujući populistički narativ od strane kosovskih institucija.
Dialogue between Serbia and Kosovo is fraught with problems, but at least both claim to accept the EU-backed framework aimed at resolving differences peacefully.
Moldova welcomed its new pro-Western government on Thursday at a time when the country faces significant security and economic tensions. Led by former Defense Minister Dorin Recen, the new cabinet won parliamentary approval with 62 out of 101 votes. Recen was chosen by President Maia Sandu following the abrupt resignation of Natalia Gavrilita last week. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Chisinau found itself caught between the West and its former Soviet ally and feared a possible spillover of the conflict into its own borders.
13 years and 2 months in jail for spying for Moscow. Described as anti-British and pro-Putin, David Smith, a former security guard at the British Embassy in Berlin, has been condemned by a London court for putting UK diplomats at risk. Smith transmitted confidential information to the Russian embassy in the German capital on his mobile phone. He was eventually arrested in August 2021 after a sting operation that included undercover operatives posing as a Russian defector and a spy. During a search of his home in Potsdam, investigators found a large Russian flag along with various pieces of Soviet memorabilia. Smith justified his actions by saying he was depressed and that he wanted revenge on the British embassy because he felt he had been mistreated.
Miracles like the rescue of this woman in Kahramanmaraş, Turkey, are becoming increasingly rare. After 258 hours under the rubble, she was rescued alive. In the same city, this 17-year-old girl survived after she spent 248 hours trapped under the rubble. She has been transferred to Ankara to recover. But as the official death toll from February 6th earthquakes in Turkey and Syria nears 44,000, officials fear there are still thousands of victims left to be discovered.
The Secretary General said that Turkey is home to the largest number of refugees in the world and has shown enormous generosity to its Syrian neighbors for years, and now is the time for the world to support the people of Turkey, just as they have stood in solidarity with others seeking assistance.
In the affected towns, cranes are working to deconstruct the destroyed buildings, and reconstruction plans have already begun in cities like Gaziantep. The Turkish government has detained 100 developers and builders for alleged irregularities in the construction of many of the collapsed buildings. So far, no lawmakers have been arrested.
There's speculation that a surprise trip by British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to Belfast after meeting the Polish Prime Minister means an imminent agreement between London and Brussels on the Northern Ireland Protocol. An agreement is aimed at ensuring a physical border is avoided on the island of Ireland, but it's been a thorn in the side of bilateral relations since the UK left the EU on January 31st, 2020. According to the British press, Sunak arrived on Thursday night accompanied by the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. Also with them was the UK Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, James Cleverly, who was due in Brussels on Friday for meetings with the Vice President of the European Commission and Brexit negotiator Maroš Šefčovič. The draft agreement, which could emerge on Friday, would be the result of 4 months of fresh negotiations. The purpose of Sunak's trip is to explain his terms to Northern Ireland politicians, who are sharply divided over the repercussions Brexit has had on their borders. On the Irish side, they've remained open, but have in effect settled with the rest of the UK. A dispute between Belfast and London led to the suspension of power sharing in the Northern Ireland Parliament.
The water and air over Ohio are not polluted. That's the message from the U.S. government, who are trying to reassure residents of East Palestine, a town in Ohio near the Kentucky border. It is reeling after a train derailed 2 weeks ago and leaked toxic chemicals into the air and earth. This message was repeated by the state's Environmental Protection Agency.
We do have the municipal well test back. That probably happened while you were in transit, and the water, we are not showing any evidence of any contaminants.
But officials have been widely criticized for reacting slowly. And the Democratic Party is demanding accountability from the railway company.
The important thing to me is that we hold, as the administrator said, that we hold Norfolk Southern accountable. That means accountable for the test for people to move back in, accountable for all the cleanup that will take weeks.
Tensions are running high in the town that is home to 5,000 inhabitants since the incident on February 3rd. Numerous train wagons burst into flames. Residents living close to the track are calling for the railway company to pay for damages.
The Berlinale has launched its 73rd edition against a background of international political turmoil. The jury, chaired by actress Kristen Stewart, will deliberate on the 19 films in the competition.
It's like we're really shocked that people are horrible to each other and that we're completely unaware of one another. No. So like what you do about it is kind of what matters. And it wasn't my idea to be here, but the fact that they asked me to come help express some of these ideas is lucky for me. Hard to talk to. I think maybe that kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it's why we make movies. It's not just to entertain each other. It's to ask each other hard questions and figure out how to come together.
The repression of Iranian women under President Ibrahim Raisi's regime was also highlighted from the red carpet, as well as climate activism amid the rising tide of art vandalism. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also joined the event via video link, pleading for actors and filmmakers to choose a side and stand by Kyiv in a speech which was received by a standing ovation from the audience.